All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining Wayne State University's Graduate School Information Session. My name is Chantel Caven. I'm an outreach specialist here at Wayne State University. We have a nice action packed plan for you today. Here's our agenda for the evening. So, you're going to get some greetings from our dean. You'll hear a presentation regarding how to fund your graduate education. You're going to hear from some of our fantastic students here. And then we're giving you some great sessions in that second hour to really hone in on those questions that you might have really dear to your heart. But without further ado, I'd like to bring, my boss up to the stage who has great words to say for you this evening. So, welcome, Dr. Amanda Bryant Friedrich.
Thank you so much, Chantel. It is wonderful to be here again to look to see. I wish I could see you guys. This is one of those things that the pandemic has made us go into a virtual world. So I don't get to reach out and touch you, but I feel your presence. So that's an important piece. I am Amanda Bryant Friedrich. I'm Dean of the Graduate School here at Wayne State University. I am currently at a conference in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is about 6 hours away from Detroit, Michigan, where our campus is. We're here to discuss the future of graduate education at this conference. So I wanted to tell you that I appreciate you considering Wayne State University. If you've already been accepted as a graduate student, welcome. We hope that you will make the decision to come and join the Warrior family. If you're still considering, I hope that I can actually provide some insight to you today that's going to make you decide that Wayne State is the place you want to be. Wayne State is a world within itself. That's how I feel about it. When I walk onto the campus, I get a feeling of being embraced by a spirit that is there to receive students, faculty, staff, community from all around the world. We don't we don't have concerns about where you come from, what your background is. We just want you to have access to a stellar education that will prepare you to become the person that you want to be, to contribute positively to society, and to have that social mobility that's going to put you in a place where you want to actually be. So, Wayne State is in Midtown in the city of Detroit. Detroit is an incredible metropolitan area which has a history of welcoming people from all around the world and their families and their cultures and their food and their music. And so that is what the vibrance comes from at our institution. We are waiting for you to bring your talent. I want you to understand that as a student, you're in control. You come to the university, you let us know what it is you want to study, you let us know what it is that you want to achieve, and we are here to make that happen for you. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today. You're going to have questions. We're going to talk about funding your education. We're going to talk about access to housing. We're going to talk about international students. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, and you'll have questions. The people who work in the graduate school are always there to answer your questions. They want to assist you. We get a lot of communication. So sometimes if you feel like nobody's hearing you, then you need to just keep trying, call us, email us, whatever it is that you feel you need to do to get in touch with us, because we want to hear from you. I am personally a pharmaceutical scientist. My research lab is in the Applebaum College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. I actually do research on antiviral drugs. And my community there is full of graduate students and undergraduates, my colleagues. And so when I'm not wearing my dean hat, I'm over there in the College of Pharmacy doing research, trying to find treatments for the future. And so I get to see students very often who are working very hard to get to where it is that you guys want to go, as scientists, as public defenders, as business people, just people who are here to get an education. So I welcome you today. I think this information session is going to definitely give you a lot of what it is you're looking for. And if you have any additional questions, please just let us know. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Amanda. So now I want to talk a little bit about something else that we kind of piece of business we have to handle here today, which is your fee waivers. So each of you received an email today that included a code for an event code for your fee waivers. So during this event, you'll see on our site a link below to make sure that you submit your event code. That is how we're going to track your attendance, and that is how you'll have access to a fee waiver. So make sure you do this at some point during this event. So it can be in this general graduate session, or it can be in one of the breakout sessions. So make sure that you absolutely enter your event code that is located on the email that you received earlier today. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the rest of our agenda. I have a great another person from the graduate school to bring up, our associate dean, who's going to talk to you about funding your education as a graduate student. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring up to the stage Jeff, and he'll introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to this session. My name's Jeff Prufnick. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Affairs in the grad school, and I'm happy to be talking to you about graduate student funding today. Nick, could you bring up the first slide, please? Thanks. So funding can be a complex process because often from institution to institution, opportunities for funding and types of funding vary widely. So what I hope to accomplish in our short time together tonight is demystify that a little bit and give a broad overview of types of funding available at Wayne State. And this is based on questions that were submitted ahead of this event, but I'll be happy to take some questions towards the end as well. Before we move on, did want to mention that we have a email address that's dedicated to questions about graduate scholarships, which you see on your screen right now. And below that is also my email address. So any question you have now or in the future, please feel free to also email me directly. If I don't know the answer, I'll make sure to find out who does get the answer and get it back to you. All right, Nick, can we go to the next slide, please? So by far, the most popular question we received ahead of time for this event was, what are the opportunities for fully funding a graduate education, particularly through some kind of stipend? So the majorities are going to be what we call department assistantships and fellowships. So those include tuition coverage, subsidized health insurance, and a stipend that's paid. And part of this comes from the grad school and part comes from the department. But when you're a new student, you're typically applying through your department for that assistantship. There are over 650 current students at Wayne State that are fully funded on either graduate teaching assistantship, a graduate research assistantship, or a graduate student assistant position. There's a large number of additional students funded on research grants. So I think when you put them all together, it kind of varies from time to time, depending on grants, but it's usually between 900 and 1,000 students being funded through those mechanisms. So to look into those, if you haven't already, when you apply to a program, you'll usually find that information as part of the application page. If you do not, again, feel free to get in touch with me and I'll be sure to get you in touch with the relevant person in that program that can answer those questions. But you want to make sure you indicate that you're interested in funding at the time of application and look for the criteria for that funding. So the majority of that runs through the department, but we're happy to assist you in getting you the information that you need. Nick, can we go to the next slide, please? There are also a number of scholarships and fellowships that come directly from the graduate school. Now, when you're a new student, those are selected by departmental nomination. So this means, once again, when you're admitted and when you're applying or after you're admitted and beginning your studies, you want to talk to the graduate director in your program to see if you can get nominated for one of these scholarships. Once you're a continuing student, you can apply directly to the grad school for the majority of these. So I won't go through every specific scholarship, but I'll just mention there's over 300 that cover all full-time tuition costs. And there's a number that provide partial tuition remission as well. There's a number of different other additional funding opportunities beyond tuition scholarships. So these would include funding conference travel or dissertation support for PhD students. One of the more interesting things I'm working on right now is funding applications for graduate students that are traveling to conferences over the summer months. So we'll be deciding about $40,000 worth of funding for that in the next couple of weeks. And one of the really exciting things about that is that graduate students are also judging that competition, deciding how that funding gets allocated. Nick, can we go to the last slide, please? And then other funding sources. So this came up in a couple of your questions as well. One thing I wanted to be sure to mention was the My Scholarship Portfolio page at Wayne State. You can find that if you just Google WSU My Scholarship Portfolio, it'll get there. Once you're admitted, you're eligible for any of the scholarships on that page that depending on your program. So if you put in which program you're entering and some other information about yourself, it'll mention other scholarships that are available. And of course, there's also federal student aid and FAFSA options available as well. And the third thing I'll mention just quickly, because this comes up sometimes and often people are unaware of this, but if you are working full-time, often you can get some kind of tuition remission or support from your employer. And often we've recommended that. That's turned out to be an option that people are often not aware of. So those are kind of three general funding pools, but I'd be happy to take some more specific questions about funding as well.
Thank you, Jeff, for that presentation. So, I have a few questions that I want to ask here, and hopefully, we'll see how long this takes us into our time frame. So, one of the first questions that I have is, can you provide some historical context on why PhDs are fully funded versus maybe other graduate students? That was a question that was presented.
Sure. So I think people often mistakenly believe that only PhD students are funded in graduate programs as a whole, or at Wayne State specifically. That's not the case. Different programs have different rules about how they distribute their GTAs, or graduate assistantships and other forms of funding. But there are a lot of master's students also on assistantships, and there's a number of scholarships that MA students are either eligible for, or at least, or sometimes are exclusively for master's students. So to use the scholarships that come through the grad school specifically, I believe there are only 10 scholarships of the hundreds that are restricted specifically to PhD students currently. But this does come up a lot, and I think there is a perception that only PhD students are funded. And that is the case for some departmental funding, but not generally.
Okay. Another question I have here is, sometimes master students may have to fund their education. So, is there a way to do installments for funding your graduate degree?
Sure. So typically people pay on a semester basis. That's essentially an installment if you're thinking of paying for the entire degree up front. But if you were thinking of making multiple payments throughout a semester, that's also an option through the bursar's office.
All right, great. And then I have another question here regarding funding for 2023. So, as you are starting in this journey, when can students either start the process of finding out about funding for 2023? When would they be able to kind of get some, or when should they start that process?
Well, it's great to be thinking as far ahead as possible. So thinking about 2023 is actually a great position to be in. So I would get in touch with your graduate program director for the program you're applying to and find out when they admit students. So another thing to keep in mind is that some programs only admit students in particular semesters. That has to do with how the curriculum runs. But when you're thinking ahead, figure out which semester you're coming in and find out how to apply for that funding now. Some programs will allow students to apply in advance. Some programs will defer funding through applications. That's another option that at least some programs will allow you to do. But that's going to vary, again, pretty significantly from department to department. So I hate to repeat the same answer over and over again, but talk to
No.
your graduate program directors early and often. Another thing I'd mention is if you don't get funded your first semester and you still begin studies, often you can get funded your second year or your second semester. Sometimes there's also partial funding options within a year. So someone's on an assistantship for one semester and someone takes over in the winter semester as well. So there's a lot there. And the more you ask, or if you may stay in contact with your grad director and make sure that they know you're interested in all available forms of funding, or whichever ones you are interested in, the better your opportunity to take advantage of that funding.
And I'm just going to ask kind of one final that kind of deals with what you're talking about now and about getting to know your grad directors and such. I know some of funding can be in a nomination type of process for that. So, what advice would you give to prospective students regarding how to get nominated? How do I put myself in that pool and position for something like that?
Sure. So again, I would look at a program page and see what's listed, but I'd also ask a grad director for whatever opportunities might be there as well. Again, I'm also happy to help you figure that out or help a prospective student figure that out and talk to your grad director for you and try to figure out where their nomination process might be. One of the things that can be complicated is a lot of these awards go in cycles. So it depends on when you're applying, what might be currently available. So again, program director is a great first contact. But if you run into any trouble, I'm always happy to talk directly with any prospective student to help them figure out what they can apply for and how to request a nomination through the department.
Awesome. So you're saying grad directors are really friendly in real life.
Exactly, exactly. So don't be afraid to reach out to your program director. And again, there's a lot of programs that run through Wayne State, and there's often multiple, or in almost every case, there's multiple programs within a single department. So sometimes it's a little difficult to figure out exactly who you want to talk to. And if you have trouble figuring that out, again, please get in touch with me. We have all the grad director contacts available in the grad school, and we're happy to get you in touch with who you want to talk to.
All right. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for providing us some information regarding funding your graduate degree. There will be another opportunity to speak further with Jeff in our general graduate information session listed below. As we keep moving along in this agenda, one of the things I just want to again bring back to you that you should make sure you complete the application fee waiver form. Now you'll see a link that says application fee waiver form. That is what we're going to use to track your attendance here. So enter that event code that you received in your email earlier today so that you can have access to that fee waiver. We want to make sure we're getting as many of you all to get those application in as possible. So we're going to start getting and moving along to our next session here, because ultimately at a graduate school it's all about the students, right? So we really want to start to kind of have some people here to share this student experience with you and tell you why Wayne, why you should be thinking about Wayne State as an institution for your graduate education. As someone who works here but also goes to school here and is a native of the city, I would highly recommend this place. Maybe I'm biased to some degree, but I will say I didn't do my undergraduate work here, but my experience here as a student has been fantastic. My other classmates are in the classroom are making my experience fantastic. So, enough of getting to hear from me. I want to bring to the stage some of our current students here that are in a variety of different programs themselves. So we're going to have some of our graduate ambassadors come speak to you about what their experience has been like at Wayne State right now. We'll have some who will be from master's programs, from doctoral programs, so you'll kind of get the gamut of what we have to offer. And so I think that the students that we have here are, and if we don't have all of them here, I think that would be totally fine. So, and when they make it, if anyone else would like to join, that's totally fine. So I think we can just have our guests get an opportunity to hear from the fantastic group that we have here to present with them now, Nick. So I think that'd be fine. So we're going to let them start joining in. And once we get them in, we'll start moving to our next piece of here. So, first, I'm going to have each of the ambassadors here. If you can introduce yourself and tell us where you attended from, where you're from, where did you do your undergraduate studies, and then what you're currently studying now. So that's tell me who you are, where you're from, where you did your undergraduate work, and where you're currently studying now.
I can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Tiara. I am a fourth year PhD candidate. I hold a bachelor's in chemistry from Morgan State University. I'm originally from Maryland, not Baltimore, but I'm from Maryland. And I am currently in the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, projected to graduate in December.
All right, Jane or Jamie.
Hi, everyone. My name is James Malari, or as Chantel says, Jamie. I am originally from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, but I call myself a transplanted Detroiter since I live now here in the city. I received my undergraduate degree in community health education here at Wayne State University, and I'm continuing on with my doctorate. So I am a fourth year doctoral candidate in kinesiology, health, and sports studies. But my main concentration is school-based health. And I, just like Tiara, will be graduating in December, well, walking in December, but defending in August.
All right. Takila, if you are available to speak. But that is totally fine. So I'm gonna go back to Tiara. Can you tell me, was Wayne State your first choice?
In short, no. Wayne State was not my first choice, but I'm very happy with the decision that I made to come here. I did want to attend another school in Michigan based off of attending an internship there right before I graduated. But in applying to Wayne State, I got notification of where I would be placed in my lab prior to me finishing my application. Like my advisor had reached out to me ahead of time, and from there everything kind of fell into place. So while Wayne State was not my first choice, I am very happy with my decision. I was welcomed in the department and in the grad school with open arms, and success.
Great. Jamie, can you tell me a little bit about how you're funding your degree? Because a lot of students have questions about being fully funded. And if I'm not, like, how do I make something like that happen?
Of course. So I had the privilege of being funded for the first 3 years of my doctoral program, and that covered both not only my tuition, it included a stipend, as well as healthcare benefits. So that covered me for 3 years, but now in my fourth year, I'm not funded. And so in order to pay for my tuition as well as my living expenses, I'm currently working as a research assistant for my doctoral chair, so for my mentor. So I'm being paid through grants, but of course you just can't sit around and expect money to flow in. So I work with her in close collaboration with her projects, and I get paid that way. I also will contract myself as a professional. So I'm a registered community health education specialist, and so different organizations or different entities will contract me to do public health work for them. So I may be evaluating some programs. I may be popping into their health care centers like hospitals or clinics, and I get paid that way as well. So that covers my tuition as well as my living expenses currently. But when you're in your fourth year of your program, you really have to hustle harder because you do have some unexpected expenses as well as a graduate student. So you always have to keep your uh, ears and eyes peeled for different funding streams that come in. And I think Matt covered some funding opportunities as well here at Wayne State. And we'll cover that as well in conversation here.
All right. Before I know you just talked a little bit about funding, but I'm going to come back to you about one more thing. So, why did you choose Wayne State?
I think the question there, Chantel, is why not choose Wayne State, right? We here at Wayne State have the privilege of not only learning in the traditional four walls that is a classroom, but we treat the city of Detroit as our classroom. So our walls are broken down and we treat the entire city as a learning hub. And Wayne State is very privileged to be in a large urban setting here in the city of Detroit, where it's very dynamic, right? You can have your lecture at State Hall or general lectures at 2 o'clock, and by 4 o'clock that same day, you're out in the city implementing what you learned. And so we have that privilege here at Wayne State, being able to do that. Depending on your program, you may be placed in different organizations across the city or have the opportunity to work with different organizations across the city. And so that's the benefit of being here at Wayne State, in that we're not isolated from the newest and greatest things that are happening in our respective fields. We just have it right outside our doors. And so that really was a game changer for me. When I was applying for graduate schools, I really wanted to be in an institution that had those close community ties, as well as giving me as a candidate the opportunity to work with community members on a regular basis and live, breathe, eat, dance, sing among them. So I only could get that here at Wayne State.
Awesome, thank you. So, Tiara, I'm going to ask you. Can you tell me about like how you've been here now? You're almost on your way out. How did you develop your network while you were here as a graduate student?
That's a very good question, because networking is not easy, especially being in a place that you're unfamiliar with. So one thing that I did was I got involved. So here I'm a graduate ambassador. This is my third year being a graduate ambassador, and it's my third year being a graduate ambassador. I have the opportunity to talk to prospective students in this format or over Zoom, sometimes in person, and it's really a lot of fun. You get to meet people who are not in your department, who are across the campus, different faculty and staff members that are within the graduate school or other departments. Also, even though you're a grad student, that doesn't mean that you can't be involved on main campus as well. So in that case, I am in a Greek organization, and I have the ability to interact with the undergrads who are also in that org, as well as I am on the e-board of an organization known as POISE, which is People of Intense Self-Expression. We do a lot of networking, community service through the arts. So for example, tomorrow we have a fashion show. So that's a lot of fun to be able to interact with different people in different aspects, not only academically, but also socially, and just meeting people, because you never know what you can learn from somebody else.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We're going to add one of our other ambassadors here who's traveling too, like Dr. Amanda. What I'm going to do is, can you introduce yourself? Tell us where you did your undergraduate work. And then a piggyback question to that is, how have you been building your network while you've been here at Wayne State?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. My name is Alexandria Ballard Sims, and I am a graduate ambassador. This is my first year of being a graduate ambassador. It's been a great experience so far. I am actually in the Doctor of Nursing Practice program within the College of Nursing. I've been a registered nurse for 5 years, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to explore more ways to learn more about evidence-based practices within nursing care. So Wayne State had a great program for that. Before I entered the DNP program, my bachelor's was in, I have 2 bachelors, actually, one from University of Michigan in Ann Arbor with a BA in psychology. And my second bachelor's was an accelerated one in nursing within the Oakland University's accelerated nursing program. So I had those 2 experiences within undergrad, and I always had, the interest of going back to the city of Detroit for my graduate degree. So Wayne State was one of a few opportunities within the city of Detroit. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all about my experience and some of the ways that I've been able to network within the Graduate Ambassador Program, as well as within the School of Nursing. I take every opportunity to learn more about my colleagues and what they're doing, as well as finding ways for me to share what I'm doing. So I'm actually in Boston right now for a national kidney conference where I can learn more about other interventions and techniques that I can share with my colleagues here in Detroit. So thank you all for having me, and I look forward to our discussion.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, Jamie, I'm going to ask you and Tiara for this question because since both of you are not from Detroit, uh, we get this question. Detroit, people have a perception about it. So, do you feel safe here in Detroit?
I think The Hour, so The Hour is the magazine that is published here in Metro Detroit, just expanded the boundaries of what we term as Metro Detroit. And Windsor now is actually part of that Metro Detroit area. We kind of joke as locals that Windsor is just South Detroit. We're just across the bridge and through the tunnel there. But no, growing up, I have family here in the state of Michigan, so we were crossing back and forth growing up. But that was a concern when I told my friends and family, "Hey, I'm going to be going to school in downtown Detroit for my undergrad and then for my doctorate." And a lot of people had that wrinkled look on their face, and I said, "Don't worry, um, I'm a Detroiter now, so I know my way around." But no, I feel very safe on campus. We have a great police program here that is that they're more than ready to assist you when you're in need. We do have a great walkout program, so you can call WSUPD, and especially if you have a late night lecture, which a lot of us in the doctoral program do, the bulk of our lectures are in the evenings, and so the sun isn't out when we get out of our lecture halls or classrooms. So you have the opportunity and the privilege to call WCPD, and if you need that extra sense of security, they'll be able to meet you at your lecture hall or your classroom and walk you to your car and ensure you're safe and sound before you head home. With that being said, all parts of campus are patrolled regularly and by the hour. I haven't had any type of problems for the past, 7 years now that I've been here at WSU. I haven't had one problem at all. And now that different pockets of the neighborhood around Wayne State's campus are now being rejuvenated with, again, parts of campus. The WSU buildings are popping up as well. But local businesses now are coming down to campus. And so it's high traffic of individuals. But again, no worries there. You're safe and sound here in Detroit. So don't be put off by any misconceptions that you've heard about the city. The people here in the city of Detroit welcome you with open arms. It's that very unique city that you can be conducting research at 8 a.m. and then be having dinner with one of your colleagues or even people who participated in your research study by the evening, which has happened to me. Some people have invited me for a picnic out on Belle Isle during the summer. So you get to meet a ton of great people and have that sense of security as well. So don't worry about that.
Thank you. Tiara, did you want to add anything?
I think Jamie hit the nail on the head. He kind of said everything that needed to be said. For me, it's only slightly different because I also have family here, and my dad was born and raised in Detroit. So I think with the city now being more welcoming in general than it may have been X amount of years ago, he has the idea of what Detroit was. He always tells me that I know more about the city and about Michigan than he does because when he, grew up here, he was going to very specific places for very specific reasons. So it is it's very different, but I feel pretty safe. Speaking of the police department, there was a few weeks ago in our labs and in my department building, we have to use our school ID to swipe into certain areas of the building, mostly where like the labs are and where offices are. And I went to the bathroom and I left my ID on my desk. It was about 8:30 p.m., 9 o'clock, and I just wanted to go home. So I had to call. None of my lab mates live within close proximity, so I called the campus police, and it took them all of 7 minutes to get to me. So drive to me and also get upstairs. So I wasn't waiting around. They were very, punctual, and they absolutely helped me out because otherwise I'd have just been here chilling.
You made a new home. I'm sure Alex may want to say something about, like, being from in the area. Do you want to add anything about it? And then I always have 2 cents when it comes to talking about my city. So
Absolutely. I'd like to say, with all of the stereotypes of our city of Detroit, I think we've grown as a city and have been able to develop so many great resources on campus. So I would say I echo the sentiments of my colleagues here that, we have great resources within security to feel safe. There's emergency phone poles in close proximity if you're walking on campus at night, which I think is a blue light that will kind of flash if you need support right away. And you'll see the patrolling of the security and the police within campus as well. So I feel very safe on campus and in and around Detroit as well.
yeah, I just the same. I just want to kind of bring that home that yeah, I'm from here, but no concerns at all. I don't even, just even talking about, I've never had to use any of the resources to make me feel safe here. So it's a great experience, a great place. Wayne State's a cool campus to be on. So that's something you will not have to concern yourself with while you are here. But something Jamie mentioned earlier, and let's start with Alex and we'll work our way back, was he talked about Belle Isle, and people probably like, what are you talking about? But just Alex, if you could start and share about something that's a must see that's here, like while a student is here, like what's something that they must see, and I would say Belle Isle is like one of my favorite places. So, but you share what your must see might.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so Belle Isle is one for sure. If you like the parks and like nature, there's a zoo, I believe that's still there or was there. Nature preserve. That's really great too, but they are building that up. My one of my top favorite places to go to in the city that is vibrant with color and nature is the Robert C. Villay Park that is nestled in between Shane Park, or now the Aretha Amphitheater, and is a great open space. They do have volleyball courts in the summer, and in the winter they have sledding for children and families. And then they also have one of my favorite restaurants in the city of Detroit, Smokey G Smokehouse, as well as Geisha Girls. And they're both local minority owned restaurants that you can support. And it's a great opportunity just to be able to enjoy what the city has to offer.
Hey, Jamie, what's your spot or spots?
Gosh, I am biased to Belle Isle because when I open my front door, Belle Isle is right there. So I live in a section of the city called West Village, historic West Village, which is a neighborhood right across from the Belle Isle Island. But I wanted to rope in one of the questions from one of our listeners in the chat. How walkable is city and campus? Very walkable. All my favorite spots, both on campus and in the city, are walkable from where I am. When the weather does get nice, unlike today in our Michigan weather, I do actually bike to campus. So I have all my stuff in my backpack, grab my helmet, and bike to campus from West Village to Midtown. Detroit is right now in the process of creating shared bike lanes in all of our high traffic streets. So these streets may not mean anything to those who are not in the city of Detroit but are tuning in. But if you do come to Wayne State, you'll know these streets very well. But for our locals, you'll know that on Jefferson Avenue, as well as Warren and Woodward, we have now placed bike lanes. So it's even easier for us who like to bike to work or to school. It makes it much easier to do that now. We also have the Jaquinder Cut, which runs through a good length of the city. We take that either coming to campus or hitting up Eastern Market, which is the United States' oldest open air market. So the Belle Isle and Eastern Market are two of my favorites, and again, accessible by walking or biking.
Tara, do you have any place that is you'd like to go and hang out at?
Absolutely. So, my favorite place to go actually is not in the city proper area where like Wayne State is, but it's still in Detroit proper. It is called Rollercade. It is the nation's oldest Black-owned skating rink, opened in 1955. It is one of my favorite places to go. It is a family business. It's very family oriented. My dad used to work there, but like when I entered the space, they welcome me with open arms. It's always a good time. You can buy skates, you can learn to skate, you can roll around for fun, you can go in there and sit down. Like it's just one of my favorite places to go. That's just like my place to be. So, yes, that is all I have to say.
Oh, great. I mean, I'll throw two more. And I mean, I think that if you are traveling to Detroit, you have to go to the Motown Museum. It's just so much history there. So you kind of have to do that. And then the other place I would say is the Riverwalk, where you can see Jamie's Canadian home for across the river there. So those would be two other places that I would have there. But I'm going to get kind of back to graduate school because here's the thing. We know this is challenging. This is a big decision in your life. There's a lot of factors that go into it. One of the questions I want to ask you all, because it's high demand. I always tell people, like in graduate school, there's something you could be doing every day for your academic work. So, how do you practice self care, um, mental wellness as a part of this process? What advice would you give about how to do that? And if Tier, we'll start with you if you could start first.
Of course. So, sometimes I take a day off, but what I like to do to kind of like draw myself back to myself and remember like what makes me happy is I like to paint, and I like to listen to music. So I don't know if you can see over my right shoulder, there are two paintings on the wall in my office. I actually painted both of those and brought them in, and there are two more in here that I've also done. Um, so I really like to draw. I like to paint. I listen to music. I go skating, and I remember all of the tiny things that I might think are, minute details, but like when I actually go and do those things, they it's a really refreshing moment. So I like sometimes I bake. I used to make brownies and cupcakes all the time. And when I'm really like in a tight spot, I'll go and watch my favorite movie that I know word for word just because like it's a comfort. Um Outside of personal activities, sometimes just calling my sisters or my parents is also enough because even though this is something that you are deciding to do for you, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to be isolated. It can be isolating, but that doesn't have to be the end all be all. And that's something that I had to recognize because I personally felt like half the time no one knows what I'm talking about when I am talking about science, so like they're not going to understand. But that's not true. It's very easy to relate whatever issues you are having to a different realm or a different arena. And at the end of the day, all it is problem solving. So if you can solve a problem, like you can add that to another another space. And really, it just, you have to see the forest for the trees. Like, you have to be present in the moment. So those are the things that I do. Sometimes you just got to make a phone call or sit in silence. It's really about whatever centers you and makes you happy.
All right, Jamie, can you share?
Yeah, so I personally like to do a lot of baking. I just wrote an article for this for the graduate school. So if you have a chance to pop onto Wayne State's graduate school website, the article is there. But I personally like to bake, and that teaches you a lot of things. If you try a new recipe, it's just like graduate school in a sense. You're trying a new research methodology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So different things that we do in self-care always circle back to graduate school. But what really has helped me during the pandemic, especially since a lot of our classes, a lot of our meetings now are virtual, is setting aside workspace as well as living space. And yes, they are two different things. Your dining room table, yes, sometimes it may function as your work desk, but it can't always function as your work desk, right? At the dining room table, we eat, right? We eat, we have conversations. We're not supposed to be running statistics and doing lectures from the dining room table. Sometimes we have no choice but to do that. But we have to have that separation of a workspace as well as a living space. And yes, two different places. I don't bring my laptop, my work laptop, into my bedroom. My bedroom is my refuge and my safe space and my rest space. And little things like that, we're very surprised if we bring those things into those spaces where traditionally they're not in. Our brain is still working on those things, even subconsciously, right? So even having your laptop in your bedroom, you're thinking about that next article you have to write, or that next article you have to read, or that presentation you have to do. So having those separate spaces helps a lot. I am very fortunate that I have a great support group, great friend group, not only with my cohort mates or my dissertation siblings that I like to call them. So we take time during the week, even if it's just an hour, 2 hours, just to be outside of our teaching or research spaces. We'll go grab a quick bite to eat. We'll do a quick walk through campus, or we'll just share a good laugh about something. That helps to recharge us during our work day and our work week. But for me personally, I like to run. Running is great for me. It's a release of endorphins. When I get really irritated about something, I just run down Jefferson Ave or down the Dequindre Cut, come back and feel recharged and refreshed. And so those things help me practice self-care. And another thing that I've learned this year too, in order for you to access self-care, you need to be transparent, not only with yourself, honest with yourself, but honest with those who are in that position of supervising you. So being transparent to your dissertation chair or your mentor and saying that I need just a day or a couple hours just to step out from this in order for me to recharge. Because if we trudge on and not take a breath, the work that we'll produce isn't the best quality work, right? So being transparent with yourself and with your mentors and your chair and saying that I need just a day or a few hours here just to recharge is your doorway and your gateway to self-care. So when you are in search of your mentor as well as your chair, make sure that you're able to have those comfortable conversations with them in order for the best success in your graduate program.
I would say comfortable or uncomfortable. They
Mhm.
both will work, right?
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left because we have to get ready for these next 5:30 sessions. So those folk that are out there, you all were once in their chairs, right? You were once in that seat of trying to figure this out and try to make this happen. What is a piece of advice that you would give to a prospective student who's about to take on this kind of endeavor for their life? So I'm going to start with you, Alex.
I would say my piece of advice would be to definitely do your research on the specialty program that you'd be interested in. There's so many great programs at Wayne State, but also to take that time to go to the open houses this spring to learn more. Will be my best piece of advice for you all.
All right, Jamie, piece of advice.
Piece of advice: go where you'll grow. That's my piece of advice. It could be the best program on paper, but if you don't see yourself growing in that space and with those people, it might not be the best program. So just echoing Alex there, please do your research, go where you're going to grow, and make sure that you meet the people, because they will be responsible and part of that growth in the next 4 or 5 years that you'll be in that program.
All right, Tiara, what's your piece of advice?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I have a few pieces of advice. So to echo kind of what Jamie was saying about the program description on paper, make sure that you are looking at what the program entails. Like, what does this program mean, and what are the classes you're going to take, and is that aligned with what it is that you want to do? And I say that because you can have, say, 4 different programs. The description of them might all relatively be the same, but one, for example, might be called MedChem, one might be called Pharmaceutical Sciences, one might be called Biological Chemistry, and one might be called something else. But if you're so focused on the name of the program instead of what it is that you want to do, then that can be a hindrance. That happened to me, so I'm only speaking from experience. And finally, make time for you, because you yourself are more important than your deadlines or whatever. They are also important, and meeting them may be important in the moment, but you can't meet them if your body shuts down off of stress. And the final piece of information, well, not information, but advice is, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? So don't psych yourself out, and don't let anyone else psych you out, because at the end of the day, like, you're you and you're great. So go for it.
Thank you all for taking time out of your day, your studies, your labs, your travel, your conferences, all of those things. We really appreciate it. I will just echo this same thing. We were all once in your seats. I never thought, I won't say I never, but I really was like, I don't know if I could be a graduate student, and I'll be graduating this semester. So if I could do it, I'm trying to tell you, you definitely can too. So thank you for your time, ambassadors here. Now I want to just give some quick housekeeping things as we transition into our 5:30 sessions here. Yes, Nick, thank you for sharing that screen. The main thing I want to reiterate is make sure you're filling out that link below for your application fee waiver. So that's how we're going to track your attendance, and that's how you will get your fee waiver. And also listed below, you can see all of the sessions that are coming up in our 5:30 5:30 time period. So we'll have a general graduate Q&A where you can, if you didn't get your questions answered in this first hour, you can absolutely have opportunity to get an answer there. We'll also have representatives from Office of International Programs. So if you have some questions regarding if you're an international student or prospective international student, you can get those questions answered there. And then we'll also be doing a general graduate admissions overview. So you'll have that. And then we have some wonderful programs that are here that are listed below as well, that you can go check out their information session too. So thank you for joining us for the graduate school's information session here at Wayne State University. We really appreciate you coming and stopping by and having fun with us for this first hour. And we will see you in one of these breakout sessions listed below at 5:30. Thank you for joining.